What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's finally the night that nobody's been waiting for, so enjoy the shit show.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the prediction show for UFC 268, a massive card between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. Two title fights, a great card stacked from top to bottom between great betting opportunities as well as entertainment value. I mean, really excited about this card Saturday night. So we're going to be breaking that down. Got the main event we're going to talk about. Have a method of victory play that I do want to talk about here that I think is a nice spot, as well as the fade of the card. There's been some spots here that we've talked about it on the show, and there's been some spots where the dog looks pretty good, or, you know, the favorite looks a little bit like that line doesn't make sense. But we're gonna break it all down for you. But before we do, let's talk about last weekend real quickly. And holy shit, we had a bad weekend. Now, this is part of the betting. This is part of it. You know, we're gonna have these. We've had a nice run. We were cashing 13 of the last 19 weeks. We've been making money. But last weekend, we just were on the wrong side of some crazy things. Decision didn't really go our way. Also, Chimaev, I mean, we had him to win via knockout, plus 170. Thought it was a great spot to bet him there. He had him dead to rights, on top, laying bombs, decided to go for the submission. We lost there. We also had Jan Glover, got the job done impressively. I mean, let me tell you something. I was nowhere near picking Glover in that spot there, but he did a fantastic job. So we're on to the next one. That's what we do. Does not feel good when we, when we come on the show and we talk about the losing nights, but we also talk about the winning nights as well. So we're going to break everything down for you. And again, for everybody who's new, subscribe, like, comment, all those great things. I appreciate everybody who's following me at Twitter, on Twitter, at Kyle Anthony UFC. So get involved there. Love having a conversation with everybody. But we're going to break down now the main event of the evening between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. Now, you've got the line here. It's set pretty wide here. Minus 310 currently for Usman. And then you've got Colby Covington is roughly around plus 240. So what we're going to do here, talk about 3 fights for each fighter, the last 3 fights, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So we're going to first talk the champion, Kamaru Usman. Now, 3 fights ago, he fought Jorge Masvidal. Now, this is a fight here where it was very interesting. I mean, you've got a guy like Usman who, at this point, you know, he is just strong. He's got the cardio. He can wrestle. He can just get you down. He's great top control, and he displayed that in this spot here. We went against Masvidal. Masvidal, obviously, definitely has the better striking. Looked good. Clean striker, can mix it up. Tough guy. And just got ragdolled around for 5 rounds, thrown around. We don't have to dive into this one too much because pretty much Masvidal did nothing. And Usman just kind of, did what he needed to do, kept the good positioning, kept control of the fight, limited his risk on damage or any kind of, allowing Masvidal to get off his shots. He stuck to the game plan. And again, it doesn't always have to be this sexy win, these big knockouts. He goes out there, does what he needs to do, gets the job done, wins every round easily, dominates Masvidal. Usman wins in that spot there. 2 fights ago, he fought Gilbert Burns. Now, this was one where they came from the same camp, same gym, all these situations that were kind of going on behind the scenes, and there was a lot of emotions going on. We saw this, even after the fight, we kind of saw, Burns, crying at the end. It was just so much emotion. Even Usman kind of felt that a little bit too. But going into this fight here, right away, what an interesting start to this. I mean, we talk about, hey, is Usman getting better with some of his striking? Is he, he's starting to change camps. He wants to get better striking. He's got the wrestling. He's got the cardio. And right out of the gate, you had Burns just walking down Usman. And I thought that was impressive. I think that allowed Burns, who definitely has the grappling credentials, but wasn't scared. He said, listen, we're going to wrestle. We're going to grapple. We're going to take this to the mat. I am comfortable with it, so I'm going to walk you down. And I think that kind of threw off Usman slightly early in the fight. And that was where it allowed a nice shot landed by Burns. Burns drops him. Burns continues to push the pace. That first round, I got to say, was Burns looked great. I mean, Burns, again, then the weird part about it all was once he knocked down Usman, Usman was able to kind of, get to, but when Burns fell to the ground, when he did a kick, I think it was, kind of, and fell to the ground, he stayed on his back. And I thought that was actually one of the worst things he could have done in that spot. He had just hurt Usman, and then he stays on his back for a minute and a half. I mean, I'm not even sure how long it was, but it was a substantial amount of time of that first round. He's on his back, and he was kind of trying to, bait Usman to come in. And I think it was like, hey, look at you, you're not going to come grapple with me. Of course, Burns wants that. Burns was good with that. Even on giving up top control shows how the level of Burns how comfortable he is with the grappling against somebody like Usman. But that time allowed, Usman had just come back. He was just rocked, and even you hear the announcers. Even DC is talking. Oh man, he's hurt. He's wobbled still. He's not all back. And then after a minute and a half or whatever it was, he kind of, all right, I'm fine. And still, Burns looked good. I think he landed some nice shots. It was a close first round. I think you maybe got to give that to Burns the first round. But after that, the adjustment that Usman made in that second round, and you could hear a lot of his cornermen yelling, "Throw the jab. Throw the jab, throw the jab," in the first round. And he really wasn't doing it. A little bit. You kind of, again, you kind of see him throwing it a little bit, but still kind of feeling out the process. Into that second round, he just started saying, I'm going to tee everything up with this. I'm going to set everything up with this. And he just, dominated the second round, dropping Burns multiple times. Burns was able to kind of get back up because, of course, Usman not looking to take him down, not looking to be down the ground with him, landed some more. And then at that point, he just knew he had his number, where Burns just was not able to pick up and defend that jab. And that set up everything after that point. Dropped him down multiple times, finishes him in the third round. And that, I think, is really the turning point of Usman's comfortable ability throwing, standing and striking. I think that finally gave him the confidence to say, you know what? I'm learning from some of the best striking coaches in the world right now. I'm comfortable, and this is a great spot for me. So he goes out there, he gets the job done, and that goes into the next fight, his most recent fight against Masvidal, Part 2. Now, was not a fan of this fight even happening a second time. I thought it was kind of stupid, didn't really make much sense. To have this fight again where he was just dominated, but they knew it would sell some, tickets and pay-per-views, and the hype was there. So, hey, is he just going to wrestle me? Is he just going to wrestle me? That is pretty much what Masvidal was saying, and boy, did that not happen. I mean, one thing you've got to say here is Masvidal was prepared. He said, I was prepared to wrestle for 5 rounds. I was prepared for grappling. And Usman not really looking to do that. Usman stood and traded, and that just, again, the adjustments and the strategies that Usman is making really just bring him to a next level, because obviously, Masvidal wants nothing to do with the ground. He has no answers for that, but ends up in this fight going in there and trying to strike, but worried about the takedowns, and he was susceptible to the big bomb that, ended the fight. He goes out there, he gets the knockout victory impressively for Usman, a guy that everyone was talking about as, pillow hands, goes out there and gets the job done. So, big win for him there. So now we're going to talk about Colby Covington. Again, Covington is plus 240 in this spot. 3 fights ago, he fought Robbie Lawler. Now, I was at this fight, and I bet Covington, and I think I was the only person in the entire arena that was cheering. Everybody hates Covington. Everybody hates him. It's a guy that you just love to hate. And, everybody, everyone loves Robbie Lawler. I'm a fan of Robbie Lawler, but I'm also a fan more of winning. I bet Colby. Colby goes out there and just dominates. He ragdolls Robbie. Robbie looking for the big shots. Even when Robbie landed like one shot, crowd went nuts. He's got, here it comes. Took him down, let Robbie back up, took him back down, all positioning. Again, it wasn't the sexiest win there for Covington, but he goes out there, he dominates all 5 rounds, pretty much rode him through the entire fight, gets the victory there, so there you have it there. And now the fight that I really want to talk about and break down a little bit more is their first fight, is Usman versus Covington Part 1. Now, there's a lot of layers to this, and there's a lot of different thought processes that people are talking about this fight, or how they see it, or what they see, or how they thought somebody won a certain round, or where the fight was going. So this is my take on this. So when you take a look at this, the first round, pretty much the entire fight was a glorified boxing fight in a cage, in an MMA cage, because nobody was looking for takedowns. Nobody was looking to clinch. Nobody was looking. It was just none of that. And we do see that. I mean, again, I'm not telling you something you don't know here. Is a lot of times you do see that where two guys maybe that are that are grapplers that just will stand and trade because they respect the other guy's strength and they're trying to look to go to you. Hey, you're maybe weaker in striking. I'm going to strike with you. And you do see that a lot when it comes to MMA. And this was no different than that, where you've got two guys and first round, they both went balls to the wall. They start firing heavy shots, big shots landing, both of them not really looking to defend much. They were both looking to take each other's heads off. That first 2 rounds was pretty much all Covington. And, they were close, but Covington had the volume, he had the pressure, he was outlanding Usman. And that's really, it really looked to a point where, Covington, that's his thing. His thing is really volume, pressure, and then of course the takedowns. He didn't need to use them there, but the takedowns. Again, we're going to talk about that when we kind of wrap this all up in this fight. But what normally Usman sees when Covington sees is where he can melt these guys with just big pressure. They give up, and at that point he can just ride them, get on them, get top control. Where Usman never really did that. Usman was kind of there. He was losing. I believe the first 2 rounds he lost. But he was still there. He still was active. It wasn't like he was, battered and all of a sudden he had no energy for a 5-round fight. And I think going into that 3rd round is really where things started changing for Usman. Where Covington, I thought, if I go out there and I just put out a lot of pressure, put out a nice volume, this is going to force Usman to start to slow down in the fight, in the middle of the fight, and maybe he could take over. And when he didn't, you started to see Covington kind of go the other way a little bit in that 3rd round. Very close. There were some close rounds in there. Going into that 5th round, though, and I kind of want to get to that, I kind of scored it 3-1. I had Covington winning this fight if he could survive this 5th round. Now, it's close. No doubt about it, it was close. There was one close. You could arguably say 2-2, and I would not, argue that. I could, there was again some, but I really thought it was 3-1 going into that 5th round. And of course, Usman goes out there and really laid it on him. I mean, he really started putting the pressure on, landed some big shots. And again, this is really what we saw. Where is Usman getting more comfortable with the striking? And now these other fights we talked about, happen afterwards. But this is really showing you the evolving of Usman. But going into the 5th round, he lands a big shot, drops him, continues to push forward, finishes him, ground and pound. Covington kind of saying, hey, I was okay. You could argue that because if Usman kept going, I don't think Covington was going to be any way of kind of getting back up and kind of winning that round, whether he needed it or didn't need it. It was a bad spot for him. Usman gets the victory there. A tough fight, but he goes up there and gets the victory. And then most recently, he fought Tyron Woodley. Not going to break this one down. This was just all Covington. Woodley is a shell of who he used to be. And at this point, in this fight here, he kind of ragdolled him, beat him up, and it ended up being an injury, I guess is what they said. But I would say Woodley gave up. Covington beat him, and there you have it there. So with that being said, now, of course, you've got Usman, who, elite level wrestler, strong top game, he's really able to kind of keep his opponents in a great position, work them there, very, very good with the ground and pound, able to keep that cardio working and keeping the pressure going and keeping that going. And now you're starting to see how he's evolving. We talked about it a little bit. The jab. I mean, that is just a key thing. You're going to see him popping it out all fight Saturday night. He's going to be utilizing that. And the other side, you've got Covington, again, strong wrestler, same kind of thing. He also, great cardio. And he's able to wear down his opponents. And that's something where you've seen him. He just can kind of wear them down. And he didn't really do that in the fight against Usman. But the biggest thing here, now, when you're talking about the line here, the line rate to me here is absolutely crazy. You've got Usman, who's minus 310. You've got Covington, who's plus 240. Now, I don't think there's anything else you could do in this spot. If this is a dog or pass, I think completely for me, 100%. I can't, there's no way I can bet Usman at minus 310. in a fight where he possibly was losing up until the knockout in their first fight. So that, to me, this fight, I think Usman should be the favorite. I think absolutely should be the favorite. He's proving himself. He's dominating now. He continues to get these victories. But he was losing. And, again, even if it was the 2-1, it was an extraordinary close fight, a tough fight. I think both of these guys, they're going to not have that emotions kind of level. I think they're going to be a little bit more kind of with it when they're watching what's kind of going on, and instead of just balls to the wall, I want to kill this guy, they're going to be a little bit more technical, a little more strategy involved. But a guy that was possibly winning the first fight did lose, no doubt about it. That, to me, already kind of is pushing me towards Colby Covington. You add in the fact also that a lot of people are talking about, and I was just talking about it, the fact that, Usman is elevating. His striking is just really starting to come around. Again, the jab, I think, is a fantastic weapon with his length and his reach and his ranginess. Mixing that in with his wrestling, it's just a lot of layers that he's starting to really, really add and make him such a dominant champion. And the other part of that is we don't know what Covington's doing. We don't know. Absolutely, this is going to be the best version of Colby Covington we've seen. I just have no doubt about that. And of course, Usman's been doing things. He's been active. He's been out there. He's been getting victories. He's looked good. Big knockout victory recently. But all Colby Covington is getting ready for, or has been getting ready for, is Usman. I mean, he has been laser focused on this fight, has waited it out, is not fighting. He fought Woodley because I think he just hates Woodley, and that was kind of everyone was picking Woodley apart at that point. So it was, but he has been focused on Usman. So I think that adds a lot to this. But the other part of it is really going to be how is Usman going to do now if they do grapple? Or how is Covington going to do if they are going to grapple? Now, Covington has been very, very open about the fact is I'm going out there, I'm going to be grappling. I'm not going to be getting away from that. Now, of course, you take that with a grain of salt. But I think this is going to be a completely different fight. And when you also look at this, I'm not picking a winner here. I'm not going here. I'm just picking. Hey, I'm going to pick the winner. We got to talk about the line movement. We've got to talk about when we're talking gambling, we're looking for value. And for me, again, as I said just before this is an absolute dog or pass for me. I can't, if you're going to go Usman, maybe you're looking at a method of victory play. Maybe you're going that way with it. I don't think it's any all worth it. Even if Usman goes out there and sparks him in the first round, I don't like where that is with how close that first fight was. There's no way that he should be, minus 310. But in here, we're looking for value. So for me here, I'm going to be having a sprinkle on Colby Covington plus 240. I think that is really good value here, and a fight that I think will be razor thin, razor close, and I think Covington can squeak it out, and a third fight will happen. But if you're looking for a little bit more on top of that, I think this fight goes to decision. I think this is a decision fight. I think both of these guys are not going to be putting out that kind of volume that they did last time. I think they'd be a little bit more, economical with it. So even Covington via decision is plus 460. I like that as well too. I think that's another spot where you're really getting some nice money on it. You're not needing to lay a bunch. You can really find a good spot here. So I do like Covington to get the job done. Plus 240. I will be having a sprinkle on Colby Covington in the main event. Now we're going to talk the method of victory play here, and it is between Marlon Vera versus Frankie Edgar. Now you've got the first, you've got the lines now. Minus 172, I believe it's for Vera, and you've got plus 140 for Frankie Edgar. Now, this is something here where I'm a fan of Frankie. He's a Jersey boy. I'm a Jersey boy. I am a fan of Frankie Edgar, no doubt. But he's at 40 here. It's almost like you want to have that nostalgic kind of, hey, Frankie, the tough Frankie. But he has looked a shell of himself also. And he has just not looked the type of guy that we're used to, who's tough, who's durable, who pushes the pace, who, gets the grappling. I mean, Frankie's, I think, if I remember correctly, I think his takedown, rate is like 30% or something. I mean, it's really just kind of shot down. He hasn't really been able to kind of be successful at that, which would be a big path for Vera. I'm sorry, for a big path against Vera would be, hey, let me get the takedowns, let me work the top control, let me get positioning. I don't think that he's going to be able to really do that against Vera so easily. But the MMA mileage on top of it is, MMA, he is a clunker at this point. He is like he's like a 1980s Chevy clunker that just keeps going. And nothing against Frankie, but this is just at a point where I don't really see much that he can do. I don't really see much he can do. You're going off of the last 3 fights that he had. 2 of them he was brutally knocked out. Brutally knocked out by the Korean Zombie and by Corey Sandhagen. Coming off of that, he did have the victory against the iffy victory against Pedro Munoz, where I think it's pretty clear that Munoz won that fight and outlanded him, and somehow Frankie got it. Who knows? But that should have been a loss as well. But on the other side, you've got Vera, who was on a 5-fight win streak. He ended up losing to Song Yadong, which I think, and again, this is another spot where he looked great. Should have won. Vera should have won that fight. I think it was pretty clear. And then on the other side of it, he fought a very tough fight against Jose Aldo, which was relatively close, and coming off a victory against Davey Grant. For me in this spot here, there's a lot to like about Vera, and I just think Vera can go out there. I think he can get the job done. I think that he's going to be able to go out there and just control, and just go out there and just say, you know what, I'm going to be able to work the positioning, outland him. I think he goes out there and he wins via decision. The decision is plus 170, I believe it is. Plus, I don't actually have it in front of me right now, but plus 170. I like this fact that he goes out there, gets the decision victory. I think he has the opportunity to kind of just go out there, outstrike him. Frankie's going to get positioning. Frankie's going to work his positioning. He's going to do what he does, where he's going to try to get you up against the fence. That first round, I think, could be Frankie Edgar. I think Frankie can go out there and maybe get that takedown, or maybe work positioning up against the fence. But we're getting later into that fight, that second and third round. Vera really starts to pick up the pace. I think he could land some big shots, hurt Frankie in the second, and really kind of, put a stamp on it in the third and win 2 of the 3 rounds. So I like Marlon Vera to go out there, win via decision as my method of victory play. And then we're going to talk the fade of the card very, very, very quickly. And this is one here where there's been, most recently, Amir Khani looked like he was going to maybe, do something, where he had some takedowns in that last week, who was our underdog guy here, wanted to fade and ended up getting sparked. There's a couple of these we've had where, again, the whole point of this is mostly we're just talking about the fact that be careful, tread lightly, the line is way too wide, and the fight won't look that way when we actually get to Saturday night. So the one we're going to be talking about is Alex Pereira versus Andreas Michailidis. And this is one here where you've got Alex minus 250, you've got Andreas who's plus 200 right now. I just think Pereira is the fade here. You know what? He's a guy. He's 3-1 in mixed martial arts. He's been, he's really getting a lot of just steam, a lot of hype because he knocked out Israel Adesanya in a kickboxing match, ages ago. It's great and it looks great and it's a nice hype piece. But you've got somebody like Pereira where he is not really fully focused on mixed martial arts, and you have him where he's got 4 fights professionally in MMA, but he had one and then he went back to fighting kickboxing, and he went 1-1 in kickboxing, lost his most recent fight, and now is back to MMA. To me, in this point here, he's no spring chicken. He's not this up and comer that's he's been around, and there's no doubt the guy's got power. He went up there and he absolutely blasted Thomas Powell, but Thomas Powell, I think, is 5-5 in MMA, and there's not much there for me. There's not much there for me to really say, ooh, big victory for you. He beat a guy that's not really done anything in his mixed martial arts career. So with that, and a guy that now you're facing in Michailidis, that he is a legit mixed martial artist. Now he's not top level. I'm not trying to give that to him, but but he's got a 50% takedown rate. He can utilize that, and that has to be a path to victory for him in this spot. He's not high level, but Pereira is not high level either when it comes to a well-rounded mixed martial artist. We know how important that is, and for a guy that probably wasn't fully training for MMA and was still working on just pure kickboxing, is his takedown defense good? You know, if he lands a couple nice shots, fight's over in the first round, and and Alex gets his victory, and we move on. But as just a fade, not worth betting. You know, maybe if you want to take Alex, by knockout in the first round, or you want to take him, maybe something to that effect. But on the other side of it, I just think it's a stay away. I think it's not worth it. I think this is a spot for me where the grappling could be such a massive difference maker, where one takedown may be all that Andreas needs to get the victory. And this is a wait-and-see approach for me. I just think this is a complete wait-and-see approach. Let this fight happen. See how Alex looks. I can't justify paying a minus 250 price on a guy that really hasn't been active in the UFC, hasn't been active in mixed martial arts. You know, he's coming off a victory against a complete can. To me, I think this is a stay away. I think Alex Pereira is just worth kind of fading at this point, not worth betting. So there you have it there. So those are my free plays for UFC 268. We are going to be taking Colby Covington. We're taking Colby Covington to win, sprinkle, and also via decision plus 460, and to win plus 240. Big lines there for you. And then we've also got our our method of victory play, which we're going to be going Marlon Vera to get the victory via decision over Frankie Edgar. So there you have it. Those are my plays. If you definitely want to take a look, I have a 5% play up on Wagertalk, linked in the description. My play of the month. Let's see how we do. Excited. I got a lot of plays for this weekend. Really excited about it. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.